Welcome to Paint Along at the Plainfield-Guilford Township Public Library. So, if you've not painted with us before, we basically are going to go step by step to create a landscape painting. And to do that, you'll need some materials if you'd like to paint along with us. So you'll need to refer to our previous video that is a materials list, and that explains in more detail all of the items that you might want to have with you as you paint. So today we're going to do, as I said, a winter landscape painting. It's a very cold February right now in Plainfield, and so this is a photo that was taken locally. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that we like to do here is to talk about how to design a painting that moves your eye through the painting. And so this is a very nice painting for that purpose, in that this creek side leads your eye back into the painting. So it's just a very natural way for your eye to go back into this direction towards that tree. The river just kind of meanders back, making a nice kind of zigzag design with your eye. As you come back here to the group of trees, your eye kind of follows this around like this. So we end up getting this really beautiful design as far as your eye movement in the painting. Might be something like a circular motion, but then you also kind of get a bit of a circular design. So that's one reason that I really like this. It really moves your eye nicely through the painting. So as we get started, I'm going to invite you at this time to take a screenshot of this photo, so that if you paint along, if you'd like, you can do it on your own, or fast forward through the video, or even stop the video while you catch up. So those things are all options for you. So let's begin. All right, as you can see, I've toned my canvas, and what that means is I've simply put a color on the surface. I don't have a stark white, but I've made this just a soft gray, which will work really well for that soft gray day that we have going on. So to begin, as you can see, I just used a tray and I cover it in aluminum foil. It cannot get easier or simpler than that. Now, if I'm painting at home, I have a really beautiful glass palette that I like. Those are wonderful, and that's my favorite way to do it. But in a pinch, this works. And if you've not done that before, you can also use a pizza box for an easel. So anyway, another little clue that we have is we have a color wheel. So if you've not mixed a lot of paint, a color wheel is very helpful in helping you to learn how to mix color. So that's really one of the main things that you're going to learn as you paint along with us. So you can see that I use just the primary colors in my painting, but we're going to still have some really beautiful colors to work with today. So to begin, as I said, I like to look at the design. I'm just mixing up a little bit of gray to kind of sketch in and design my composition. So to do that, I'm going to first of all look at the horizon line. The horizon on this photo is right back here with this line of blue trees. You can see these trees are blue in the background. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place the horizon line. As you can see, if this is about the halfway point, so it's really about a third of the way down. Sometimes we'll adjust that, but I think that actually is going to work very well for us today. So I'm just going to roughly sketch a line across there. There's nothing difficult about that. So now, as you can see, we've got this, another place that I'd like to make a placement is we have this creek side that's going back towards the middle, actually. And right, not in the center, but about a quarter of the way over, we've got this vertical tree. So I'm going to say this is about half. I'm going to bring it over about a quarter, and I'm just going to place this line here for that vertical tree. All right, now you can see that we have a line of the creek that's coming up to almost to this tree. It's got a little bit of an angle to the right, but I'm going up basically to the tree like that, and then we're going to come in an angle back like that. This is the line that I'm drawing now, right here and here. Now I've got this line. We're going to bring this line. I don't really want to take it right here at the corner, but I'm going to bring it in just a little bit and bring that in towards the tree. Your eye is going to be going towards the tree. As you can see the line like an arrow towards the tree. Then I'm going to bring it back just like that. And then of course there are all these wonderful shrubs. I'm just going to kind of indicate those shapes. And then back here we've got another 3 trees. Those are located right back in here. I don't want them to be too evenly spaced, but I'll put a couple close together and maybe a third. All right, and then here we've got lots of shapes of the shrubbery, shapes of these shrubs. This one goes off the edge here, you can see, and then it comes in, and there's a shape here, almost an egg shape. So I'm just going to give that egg shape right there. Okay. All right. This is the basic shapes of our painting. Just going to continue that line of the tree all the way up to the top. You might want to go in at this point and put in some branches. If you don't, that's quite all right too. We can always do those later. And then on a sycamore, often the trees will come down towards the base. And that's okay too. There we are. All right. So those are the basic lines that we have in space. And this is going to be our basic design, moving our eye backward towards these trees and then over to the sycamore and then again straight down, having this movement. So if you can see that. Okay, same movement. All right, so let's get started blocking in the color. All right, so at this part of the painting, we're going to actually start to mix color and work the colors into the shapes. Okay, so I really love starting at the back and working my way either down, or if you think of it, working your way forward. So we're going to begin with the trees and we're going to actually begin with the sky. It's not very visible in this particular photo, but that sky that morning that really caused me to come to look at it, the sky was very pink, almost a peach. So that was what I was seeing in the sky, and it was also reflected down into the water. And a lot of this water was frozen, but in some areas, some of that was reflected. So we're going to go with kind of a peachy, coral, very pale sky. To get there, all right, the first thing that we want to do is we're going to mix an orange. Now, if you look on the color wheel, to mix orange, we're going to mix our primary colors of yellow and red, and that's going to give us orange. So I'm going to begin with a little bit more of the yellow and just a tiny bit of orange. You can see red is a very strong color. It doesn't take much to get to make a big impact there. So I'm needing more yellow. All right, we've got a beautiful warm orange. Now, I'm going to add white to that and take that off in the direction of a soft, peachy, almost coral. I think I'd like it a little more pink, quite honestly. And to get that, I just need to add a little more red. It's a little bit more of what I have in mind. Now I'm adding some white into that. That's about what I want right there, so you can see. All right, let's try kind of working that into the sky. We'll go in later. You can see there are a lot of tree limbs in this painting. We'll go back in later and do some more of that. But right now I just want to kind of block in that color. This is still very orange. I kind of want it to be a little more pink, but that's okay. We can go in later and add more pink. But right now I'm just going to block in, just blocking in some color. A lot of orange here. I think that's coming from my brush. Not really a fan. It's just too much. Let's go back in and I'm going to wipe my brush. Wipe that down. Let's go in and add it, make a little more pink here. Again, I'm not crazy about what I'm seeing there. That I think is there's a little bit more coral. I think that's a little bit more what I had in mind. Let's try that. Yeah, I think that's a little bit more of what I have in mind. So I'm just blocking in, getting some of this on that, covering up that gray. Keeping in mind that I have the shape of these trees back here. All right, there's a little bit of that. The next shape I'm seeing are the clouds. It's almost like a front of blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of this kind of peachy color that I had, add a touch of blue to it, not a lot. I want it to have a little bit of that sky color in it. Add a little more blue. You can see that it's almost gray. By adding that orange, it takes it almost into a gray. There we are, kind of like that. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of what I had in mind. There we are. All right, and now you can see the tree line is a much more vibrant blue. I'm going to mix much more blue into that tree line. Almost a periwinkle. It's really beautiful. Let's see what it looks like here. That's about right. There we are. There's that. Adding just a little bit. Okay. And again, back here in the background, I've got this tree line that I'm just working on. You know, at any time that I'm painting here, if you'd like to see the finished product, you can always fast forward this video. And that's kind of a fun thing to do, just to kind of see it, the painting created in fast motion. There we are. We're getting that. So these will indicate the trees in the far, far distance. All right. I'm going to kind of cover up that line also, that gray line. Not a fan. Don't want too much of that to show. All right then. So as you can see, now the background in here, if I remember correctly, even that snow had a little bit of that pink reflected in it. So I'm going to bring some of that down into the snow, blocking in this big snow shape. You can see I have a little bit of blue on my brush, and I have a little bit of that pink on my brush. Perfectly fine. Pulling a little bit more of that pinkish white back in here. Snow. There we are. Good enough for the moment. Now, you can see that this area down here in the foreground has a lot of blue in it because even though the light is very diffused, there's still blue shadows in there. So again, a lot of the color that I had used up in here, I'm going to be pulling down into the foreground. So let's just, again, keep working on that blue. Since I've got blue on my palette and I'm using acrylic paint, it dries very, very quickly. So I'm just going to take advantage of having this already mixed while I'm here. I'm going to pull some of that orange into it just to tone it down a bit. All right. So wherever I'm seeing blue shadows, need a little more blue. That might be about right. It looks very, very blue here, but I think when I actually get it on my painting, I think it's going to be about right. So wherever I'm seeing blue, hits of blue, here at the base of the tree, I'm seeing blue. Just blocking in these kind of blue shadow shapes. Also here, more so back in here. And I'm seeing up in this area. Adding a little bit just here and there for unity. There we are. All right, so far so good. We're doing all right. So now, I've got this blue, but I think we're going to start to work on the creek area. Now you can see there are some areas that have really dark, this dark gray, okay? There are some indicated areas of really dark gray. There are also areas with a lot of brown. To create brown, I've got this beautiful orange. So we're going to mix orange. And then blue. So to get a good brown, we've got orange already, and I'm going to mix some blue into it. As you can see, we're just going to mix. Now, you can see this looks like an olive green. The reason this looks olive green is this orange has a lot of yellow in it. But if I want to take it more in the direction of brown instead of green, I'm going to add more red. So by adding red, that's going to take it in the direction of a brown. There we go. Can you see? Almost magic. There's a beautiful brown. Remember, if it gets too green, because yellow and blue make green, then you need to add more red to make brown. Okay? So there's a beautiful dark brown that we have. That's just about right. And now we have some grays, so I'm going to mix up a little more gray. I put black on my palette today just because it's very easy. And this time of year, we're using really using a lot of grays. You can see that I have a lot of brown in my brush, so we're getting a warm gray because of all of that yellow and red in it. And that's okay, I actually like it. All right then, so we've got this beautiful gray. Let's start to look at this creek. So if I were looking at the creek here, you can see it's very, very dark. There's a dark shape here, almost like right in here, a dark shape. I've got a really light brown on my brush. In fact, the color I have on my brush is much more like the color that I have back here in these brushes. So I'm going to clean up my brush by just kind of scrubbing those in, since my brush already has that color on it. Again, beautiful neutrals. You can see that there's variety. There are dark areas, there are areas that are more beige, there are areas that are more gray, but we're just blocking in the shapes right now. Blocking in shapes. This has some of that peach in it, blocking in some of those shapes. Here we've got some of that peach where the light is kind of hitting it, even though the light, as I said, is very diffused. There we are. And we've got some areas here where it's much lighter. Okay, Now, I'm going to go back in with those darker tones now and really look at those dark tones that we see. Let's begin with the tree. That's an easy thing to do. You can see that dark black, almost brown that we have. Mixing some of that black and brown together just to bring it in really deep, and just a tiniest touch of blue to take it a little cooler. All right, here we go. So this is what we're doing. This is one of our darkest shapes right here. That's why your eye is drawn to it, because you have your lights and a really dark. So your eye automatically goes to that. That and the fact that it is a vertical like that. So just going to take that up about halfway. As you can see, sycamores are usually darker at the base, especially this time of year. The light really kind of plays with it. So we're darker at the base. There we are. Now, there are other areas where I've got some of that really dark brown. So let's go in and put some of those in now. You can see right down here, there's a bank. The area where the creek is, right in through here, all dark. All of this is very dark. My paint is drying, very dry. All right, mixing some really dark tones. I'm going to add more blue to that. As I said, it's very cool. It's a very cool brown. There is another area over here with the reflection of the tree. Right here along the bank, defining that space. Defining the edge of the creek here. Got some right in this area. There. Now, any place that I see dark in the grasses, I'm going to go up in here, especially in the bases. At the base of these, you're seeing lots more dark. Same thing over here. We've got lots of little bits of dark right in here. 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 Okay. Let's go back now with some grays. I'm going to add some white to this. And as I mentioned earlier, there are some reflections from the sky in that water. So I'm going to pull a little bit of that coral, that orange, a little more red. We want it warm. There we are. So some of this color right in this area. You can see that light spot right there, even with a little bit of more white. This right in this area is very, very cool. Here, there's a reflection and a little bit more here. That sky, again, is reflected all in this space. And then it also has some areas that kind of pull down into that gray. All right, so then we're going to go back in with the gray and fill in the rest of this creek with those colors. Right now, just blocking in color. All right, close enough. So now I think we've got pretty much everything kind of blocked in. I'm going to go back in with a little bit of light blue on the snow. And then we'll be ready to work in the details. All right, I'm going to take some of this lighter blue. It's lighter. It's got a little bit of blue, but it's still got a warm gray. Still a little bit gray, a little bit blue. Let's try that. I might actually need to brighten that up. It's just not got any pop as far as I'm concerned. Let's try that. See if that's a little bit better. Still got a lot of blue in it. I think what I want to do is just add a little yellow, just to warm it up a bit. Let's try this. See if that's a little bit better. Oh yeah, I think that's what I wanted right there. Now you can kind of tell the difference in the values here. Yeah, that's better. Kind of a cream color on that snow. Again, that sky is so warm that it actually works. It really does. There we are. And I'm going to take some of that same color that I just had and pull it down into this creek. All right, now let's get finished with the details of this painting. All right, now for the final details of the painting. For this part, I generally will get a smaller brush, and I certainly am going to do that because we're going to be working on tree limbs. So at this point, I've got something that is more like a small bright, but you can see the brush width is much smaller. All right, so I'm going to go in right now with a gray, and we're going to work on the brush, the limbs of the sycamore tree and also those other trees. The sycamore actually looks, even though in your mind it might appear white, it is in fact a rather deep mid-tone gray. So I'm working on a mid-tone gray, and I'm just going to define some of those tree limbs here. What I want to do, I think, is use my liner brush. Liner brush is very long and thin and has a little bit of a spring to it, which is really nice for doing tree limbs. So to do this, I'm just going to, again, load that up with paint, bring in lots of limbs. I don't have to do my limbs precisely as the tree is done. We'd be here all day if I were to do that. But in reality, so we're going to just, again, just kind of give us the play of lots of limbs. Bringing that limb off here. Now in the background, I've got those beautiful trees, those 3 points of trees that I have. Just gonna keep those there. They seem a little more defined also. I wanna make sure that I can see those a little bit better. And as they are further away, you can see they're a little bit less, they're a little bit more fused, a little bit harder to see. All right, the shape of those is kind of like a fan almost. We're gonna go in with some sky color and clean it up, I promise you. So right now I'm just flicking the tip of the brush to make a fan shape, making it rather rough actually. I'm gonna bring all of these tree limbs. You can see they're pretty messy. Very irregular. You don't want to do a lot of regular shapes with your trees. Bringing that down. All right. There are a lot of grasses and tree limbs also in a lot of shrubbery, I would say, in these grasses. And we're just going to throw that in there as well. Same thing over here, going off in different directions. And we're going to go in with our details and define some of these shapes in just a moment. Right now we're just having a little fun. Go ahead and just play with those grasses. All right, I think that's good enough for the moment. All right then, so now I'm going to, with my detail brush, I'm going to go in and work in the sky. So I want to use a little bit lighter tone than I actually used before. There's a lot of peach, whoops. There's a lot of peach in here and I'm not, it's just too much. I'm going to pink, I'm going to add a little pink, a little gray, and let's go back over that. And now I'm going in between, using this one for details. I've added a lot of white and just a little bit, and so we're going a little bit of, I've used a little yellow. I pulled in some of the orange and I toned it down with a lot of white. So let's just see what this looks like. So I'm going in between and just kind of doing some of the negative space around this tree. Just kind of defining these spaces. This is my favorite part of painting the entire painting. Just painting in these little specks and dots of negative space. And I would advise you not to really do a lot of dabbing. That's a habit that I have tried to break through the years. But just lay down a line, lay down lines, just do them once. And we're going to just, again, picking up more of that color. This is really much more of what I had in mind when I was looking at it earlier. Again, this negative space, this is my favorite way to paint sky holes and trees. Just really a lot of fun. Almost finished with those sky holes. All right, I like that. That's much better. Feel much better about that. I'm going to lay some of these kind of highlights, this pink spot back here in the snow. Again, just for unity in my painting. Just to kind of, again, with the eye. Just a little bit of that. Yep, there's some little specks of it back in this area. I'm just going to cut a couple of these little specks that, again, just kind of are like little sparkles of light back here in the background that are going to lead your eye again towards this little space. Okay, going to do the same thing in the water wherever I've got some really beautiful highlights here, 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 and then I've got more right in the space. Just going to highlight that. Bring some of that down into that space. There's a couple of little areas that are kind of reflected down in here. Just going to add just a little bit of that. Good. Okay. Now I'm going to take some of that same color and that pink. I'm going to take some of that orange into that neutral. I think I still want a little more red. I wanted a little more pink. I think I want to tone it down, so I'm going to add a little blue. Maybe take it in the direction of lavender. Yeah, that's better. This is more of what I'm looking for, more of a mauve, as you can see. That's more of what I want. So now I'm going to put some highlights into the shrubbery in these brushes. So I can see there's a little back in here. Some of that might be a little too bright. And some here. Bringing some of that mauve down here into this area. You can see right in here is where we have it. Okay. Again, going to do some of the same over here. Not too much, but just a little. I want to bring that warmth into my painting. I don't need a lot, just here and there. Putting a little bit more of that into the creek. Okay, I think I want to add just a little bit more brown to kind of, I don't know, something about those shrubs that I want to work on. So let's do orange. Pull that orange over. Ooh, I kind of like that golden beige that we've just developed. We mix some of that orange with brown. Now, if I were to add white to that, oh, I like that. That's more of a golden beige. Let's try some of that in our painting and see what we get. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it needed. Just that little hit of some yellow. I think I want to tone it down a bit more, make it maybe a little more mustard. Yeah, there we are. A little more grayed, I think, is what we want. Don't want it to go crazy. There we are. Doesn't need to be through the whole painting, just here and there. Again, for unity, we're just going to bring it around in a couple of different places. All right. Areas back in here that just kind of need to be defined a little bit. Add a few brushes back in here, little bits of brush. Okay, I kind of think that we're pretty close to being there. All right. Again, this is a very soft, very neutral toned painting again this type of year with all the grays that we have. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll paint along with us and join us again next time. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.